Hello, hello. Welcome to our wonderful author panel for Mango Publishing. I am Cheri J, and my book is Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the Most Important People in Your Life. And we have been hosting these panels every Wednesday since the pandemic started as a way to bring the wisdom and the heart from so many of the wonderful Mango authors to people who might need some extra support. And so today I am so happy to welcome Nita. Hi, Nita. And Marlene and Cheri. Hi, Cheri. Welcome, you guys. And welcome to Rachael and Annie and Andrea who are here with us. And so to start off, Nita, would you be kind enough to start us off and just to introduce yourself, tell us where you live, hold up the cover of your book so we can see your book, and maybe just tell us, you know, something that lately has been helping you to support yourself during this time or bringing you some uplift or joy.
Happy to do that. I'm always just love these panels. So my name is Nita Sweeney, and I'm from Upper Arlington, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus, in the middle of Ohio. And my book is You Should Be Writing. And it's the second book I've had from Mango, and I co-authored it with Brenda Knight, who is an associate publisher and at Mango. And so we have this coming out, and it's got a beautiful foreword by Becca Anderson, who is another Mango author. So it's kind of a Mango trio, and it's a writing journal, which is filled with author quotes that are meant to be inspiring and instructional. And so when you get the book, you'll see the way it's organized. We organized it by theme with little tiny, like I call them micro essays that I wrote at the beginning of each chapter to just sort of introduce the theme. And then we let the authors speak for as the instruction and inspiration. And so right now, I'm trying to really get back to writing. We had an odd situation during the pandemic in the sense that we were kind of in a home healthcare bubble. My husband got very sick, not with COVID. He had pneumonia, a heart attack, open heart surgery, and then wound up on a gastric tube, you know, so it's like crazy. So he's so much better, so much better, so much better. But I got away from the two things that are my essentials, which is meditation and writing, and running also, but the indoor things were meditation and writing. Because I just didn't have time. I mean, everything was crush his meds, what's he need next? It was all just, you know, my Twitter hashtag is accidental home healthcare aid. And so I've really tried to get back to some structure, but not guilt trip myself, because I hear so many people, not so many people, but the ones I notice are the ones that have repainted their entire house twice because they didn't like the color, or, you know,
people like that.
recarpeted my house and their house and their mother's house. You know, that's not us. So I have to be really careful to not judge myself for, you know, just let myself be where I'm at. And with writing, I've been able to really get back to it and just do real basic writing practice, 10-minute timed writings, just let my mind go, no editing. And that's starting to feel like it's bringing me back to who I really am. So thanks for the question, Cheri.
Oh, Nita, you know, first of all, I'm so glad to hear that your husband is doing better.
Yes. Yeah.
And I love this about you, because I've talked to you before and, you know, gotten to know you a little bit. And I love that you always bring in that compassion, you know, and the gentleness for oneself. And I feel like that's such a beautiful place to just begin. So I'm so glad that you already introduced that into the circle that we're in, because that is such an important aspect of this, right? Like there's a whole spectrum of how people are responding to what's going on. And no matter where someone is, I just love that you bring in that gentleness, that compassion, and also like the steps toward what, you know, takes care of you. So that was a really important piece too, that you found a way to do it in a manageable piece. I'm getting some feedback. I'm just wondering if we can maybe mute. I'm not sure what. You guys hearing that? Thank you, whoever just muted. So thank you, Nita. Really appreciate that. And your book is coming out soon.
June 16th. It's up for pre-order now. It's and like I said, it's co-authored with Brenda Knight and with the lovely, oh, look, there she is. Yay. Yay. And lovely forward by Becca Anderson. So yes, please pre-order. Those pre-orders are so important. I had no idea until I was an author myself how important the pre-orders were. So it's going to make a great gift, and it's going to be really something that a lot of different people can use, I think, because it's tailored toward writing, but everybody is stunned by the blank page at some point in their life. So this is a way in.
And Nita, I know we're going to be circling back to you. Personally, I know I'd love to hear a little bit more when we come back about how people might be using it, during this time as a support. So when we circle back, will you come back to that?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Cheri, hi, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Cheri Miners, and I'm from Laurel, Maryland. I have 6 married children, 12 grandchildren, and I started writing about 20 years ago, and I have 3 series for children that teach social skills and character education. So the book that I want to share is the book that I put out with Mango, and it's called Making a Difference, Teaching Kindness, Character, and Purpose. And so actually, thinking about this time that we're in, I realize that some of the points of this book have actually been helpful to me. I think when I think about self-care, I first think of just physical things, like I like to do yoga, get out and walk, or ride a bike, get some sunshine. And I think taking care of those physical needs are really important, to our spirit and, just the way that we feel also. But beyond that, I started thinking when I had a change in schedule and like extra time, and just thinking about what am I doing that, is of any importance. It's kind of this, am I making a difference, in any way? And so I think as I thought of just tiny little things that maybe I've done for other people, I think that's been helpful to me.
Oh, I love that. Can you say just a tad more about, because that's really beautiful.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for instance, I've worked with some high school kids. I've been teaching them at 6 a.m. every morning. And since this change, I've been just, emailing them, and when we have Zoom, but a couple of them were graduating. And so I like to make jewelry. And so I made some jewelry for those girls and went to their house and, delivered a little gift for them and had a chance, to talk to them and congratulate them. And so another example is this, like doing volunteer work at a church that, was collecting, canned goods for people in need. I made masks just for people in my family and mailed them to them. So I think just being creative and just thinking, for me, that's been just a way of how can I just make a difference in this time for somebody else. So.
Oh, Cheri, that's so beautiful. And thank you. Thanks for bringing that in. It's also something near and dear to my heart, because my book is about gift giving, but that we're always the first recipients of that love that we give. And it sounds like for you that's a place where you landed during this time. That
I try. I don't know if it's my natural inclination, so I think I have to be conscious of it, but I do really feel good when I do it. I think it's good for us and the people that we try to help. So
it's lovely. And I'm especially touched by your story of, those teenagers who are graduating and doing something really special for them, because of course that's one of the losses of this time, for them not to get to have the ceremony. And so that really touched me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Marlene, hello.
Hi. Well, my book that sort of is apropos to the pandemic is Still I Rise, The Persistence of Phenomenal Women. And really, I'm taking succor from my own book, because basically the premise of the book is to showcase women who went through a tsunami of pain, but they not only survived, they prevailed. And so I think that, by reading their stories, our problems are even nothing compared to theirs. So I'm sort of getting inspiration from these very, very remarkable woman. And my life under the pandemic, well, my biggest shift was I'm a full-time high school English teacher. And then they announced that school would be closing. My ears are still reverberating from the screams from my classroom. I doubt it'll ever go back to my pre-state because the kids went nuts. But, you know, as they email me, because we're doing distance learning, one of the things they're saying, we want to come back, and we, you know, sort of, we didn't know it was going to be boring. And I keep saying, don't say gonna, say going to. But, you know, I can't change my spots. They know that. So I think even the kids understand that, you know, they always complained about we're being in school and we really hate this. And now they're realizing we're bored and we want to be with our friends. So, you know, to me, it was a big shift also to learn to, you know, be a distance teacher rather than in front of the classroom. So that was a really big shift. And one of the things I've noticed just about kindness, which is sort of the premise running through the themes of everybody's book, is I find the times we go out, even when I see people in their masks, even though that gives them anonymity, I find people are even being kinder. Like today, I was at 7-Eleven, and you know, I usually can't even unitask, and now I'm trying to multitask. I'm holding my dog in my wallet, my coffee, and then I'm apologizing to the people behind me. And they were saying, oh, don't worry, take your time. And they weren't being their nasty, you know, selves. So I think, like in any time of disaster, you know, the good and the bad people, they come out, it sort of showcases what was already there. And a lot of strangers are just being kind, much more so than usual. So I found that, you know, sort of a silver lining.
I love that. That's beautiful to acknowledge, isn't it? Because I agree with you. I mean, there's, I think, even though we're sheltering in place, there's such a greater sense of community in so many ways. And I love your example of those simple kindnesses that really make a difference.
Right. And also on Facebook, you know, people are being very supportive. Like sometimes in Facebook, people can bring out the nasty, but people are being very supportive on Facebook and being kind, much more so. So I think it raised the bar on human decency.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have all three of you here. And I just wanted to say a welcome to the people who have come in since we started. We didn't have a chance to say hi. Welcome, welcome. Special welcome to Brenda Knight for being here and being our fearless leader as the associate publisher of Mango. And also as the co-author, right, of the book that Nita's bringing us.
I like to keep busy.
Apparently, we noticed that, Brenda.
Yeah. So Brenda, since, you know, I didn't even know that until Nita just said that, but as always, of course, but maybe more than ever, if you want to jump in after we're, you know, talking a little bit more about that, please.
Well, I love listening to these, and I look forward to every Wednesday because it's very meaningful. These are always very deep discussions. And I know it's sort of organic, and thanks to everyone, and especially thanks to you, Cheri, but it's just interesting to me, and it's become like a hub for me every week.
Oh, thank you. Me too. You know, I just look forward to this. And before you came on, actually, there were just a few of us. I was saying that again, you know, Mango Publishing, to me, it's just like this treasure trove. Like I had no idea when I was lucky enough to have my book published by Mango, that there were just so many amazing authors. And it's such a joy to get to see you and to, you know, to meet you. And that's what we were talking about before, like just to get to see your faces and just to hear more, like, you know, more about your books, but also just more about who you are and how you live your lives. So with that in mind, Nita, how about if we come back to you? And, you know, so the other thing that we're doing in these panels, of course, is sharing wisdom from our books, from our hearts, practices that we can offer to people during this time. And I'm excited to hear about your new book.
Well, the chapter that actually comes to mind, actually two chapters come to mind right now, and they're the final two chapters in the book. The book it's a blank book with author quotes meant to be inspirational and instructive. But they're organized by subject or theme. And the last chapter, next to the last chapter, is called Writing as Medicine. And all of the quotes are focused on how writing feeds each of us as individuals. And then the final chapter is the role and responsibility of the writer. And so it talks about once you've, I literally say, you know, we literally say in the book, once we've put our own oxygen mask on, how do we then help someone else put theirs on? And the idea, you know, the book actually starts with quotes from kind of like the greats, and then moves through various other parts of writing, like craft and, you know, the shape of language. There's one chapter I really like called Waxing Poetic, where we pull in some poets and talk about kind of the rhythm of writing and the texture of writing and the shape of language and how authors do that. I think there's, I'm not going to count right now, but I'm reaching for the book, but I'm not going to count it right now. I think there's 15 quotes in each chapter, so there's 15 pages in each chapter. And then there's a lovely foreword by Becca Anderson, and then an introduction and a conclusion. So it's a writing journal, but it's very structured. And so it has that extra oomph that a lot of people need when they're looking to write. Or I know for me, I've been writing a very long time, and things come up and I just need a new spark, a new nudge. And so something like this would be something I would turn to and say, let me just flip through here and see if one of these quotes gives me that energy I need to get started or even finish. So yeah, it's kind of a, you know, it's structured, but yet it gives people the freedom to use it in the way they want to.
Well, I will jump in and just say really quickly that now that, you know, we're mostly staying in and mostly sheltering in place and you know, for however long it is to be safe, people do have more time to themselves that they're not spending with their friends out at dinner. And journaling and free writing is one of the best things you could do to process your feelings, honestly. And I mean, I think we're all having a lot of feelings about what's going on now and the loss and just, you know, just it's unmooring, I think is the word that comes to mind for what this time period is for all of us. So you could literally just like, you know, just write out your feelings about what we're going through, about what you're going through. And the journal is perfect for that too.
Brenda, I love,
Thanks.
oh yeah, sorry, Nita.
No, go ahead. I was just going to add, similar to that, is that if you are a writer, what happens to me, not only do I need to write my feelings, but I might want to write something more publication oriented later, and I will not remember the sensory details later. So the other way I'm using it is not only, like Brenda said, it's exactly the perfect time to write all these crazy emotions that we're having and capture the sensory details that we will forget later. So thanks for mentioning that, Brenda, because that sparked that in my head.
I love that. And I'm a writer too, so I love it. But I'm thinking, even for people who don't call themselves writers, that this journal sounds like something. First of all, I love that there's the quotes and the prompts and, you know, things like that. But I know a lot of people right now who are turning to writing who have never done that in their life, because it is such a great way to process what's going on. So I love that. And we're talking about your book, but we're also really talking about a practice, a tool that can support people so much right now, you know. And Nita, you had even mentioned just a little bit earlier about that, you know, like I love Brenda's word of unmoored, you know, like that feeling of being unmoored and how writing can help tether you to a part of yourself. So yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to offer right now, sort of about in relationship to writing in this time and how people could support themselves?
Writing can be like a meditation too. Like when I'm working on a project, I will set a time, you know, that's like 6:30 to 7:30 is my writing period. And then like I sit down and do it. and like I sort of get in flow, and so it can be like a meditation practice, like even if I'm not even writing particularly well or anything like that, I'm still expressing, I'm still creating, and so it then I feel moored, I guess. So I mean, it can really be like I think self-care practice, absolutely, like free writing and journaling is self-care.
Yes, yes, which we desperately need. I think I hear a lot of people just being so hard on themselves, and my answer is, we have never been here before. We need every tool, and different people need different tools. So that's what's great also about Mango authors, is because there's so many books that offer such a variety of tools. I'm just so grateful to be part of that kit.
I love that. And you know, when you guys, both of you were talking, the other thing that dropped in for me about writing that I find is I'm also, I meditate like you, Nita, too. And it's such a way to get present. And I think that part of the reason that it feels like such a healing tool is, like you were saying, when we're focused on those sensory details, it kind of forces us to be present, you know, and that in itself, I think, is such a place of healing. So it's a big advertisement for writing today, isn't it? I like. So Cheri, where did you go? I lost you. Oh, there you are.
Here.
So how about you? What would you like to share from your book?
Okay, well, the book kind of has three main themes, and two of them really go along with what we're talking about. The first one is to be positive. The second one is to be kind. And the third one I call for children to do good. And so I thought about, one of the books that really inspired me is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And I followed some of the ideas that he talked about, the importance of relationships, which I just identified as being kind, but that aspect of relationships, an aspect of achievement, and so that's kind of the idea of doing good for kids. Is just what they're learning and the skills they're developing. But all of those things are not just for our own use, but as we have new skills, they're for the betterment of other people, you know. And it the last one, he talks about being able to endure suffering, but I just for children identified as being positive. And I think it's just really about attitude and perspective, and how, you know, how we look at our life. That really has makes a difference in what our lifestyle is and the quality of our life, and if we feel like we have purpose or not. And so I'm just thinking of kind of some of those aspects of being positive. One of the things I was thinking about recently is just as we sift through things that we read, and there's just so many different things, and trying to know what's real and what's not. I decided there's two things that I don't know. And one is, what is somebody else's intention or their motive? And so if I read, well, this person did this because that, you know, and causing blame, that I'm not gonna pay too much attention to that. I'm not gonna invest in that because it just gets me caught up in that cycle of being angry or frustrated. And so that's one thing I don't know is, and so I just have to try not to judge or blame, and just, you know, try to understand that everybody's trying to do their best. And I think that helps me to be positive. And the second thing that I don't know is the future. And so I don't know if people are saying, well, this is what's going to happen to us in a year or 2 years or whatever, not to get too spun up about it. None of us really know. And so kind of just, I think for me, realizing what I don't know is actually kind of helped me feel more peaceful and positive. So that was just one thing that I've thought about recently. And just also maybe being happy for other people and their joys, that it doesn't detract if somebody else is doing well, or in fact, you know, if we're around somebody that's positive, that energy is just really contagious and, you know, spreads to all of us. And so
If
Yeah.
I could just jump in what you said, like somebody else's success does not diminish your own. Like Gore Vidal had a saying, he said, every time a friend succeeds, something in me dies. But you're saying the opposite, you know,
The opposite, yeah, sure.
success does not detract from you. And I wish, you know, that's a great message that you just said.
Thank
Because
you.
why be jealous? I mean, it detracts from you, you know, it's just so petty.
Right. And when we feel petty, we're not really feeling happy, you know. It's
And
not
we are,
our
exactly.
good either. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess those were just some of the ideas I had about feeling positive. But I mean, there's always so much to say, but I'll let somebody else go ahead.
Let me just pause for a moment because I really appreciate what you said. I thought that was so profound, you know, that sort of that taking solace in what we don't know was a beautiful way to look at this, you know, like really underlining and acknowledging we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what people's intentions are. And I thought that was really great. I just wanted to underscore that. And I also feel compelled to ask you if you would read us a tiny bit from
Sure.
something like how you would say it to, you know, that part about being positive. How do you say it in your book?
Not sure I can, well, you know, it kind of starts out by saying that, you know, I want to do things that matter. I look for ways that I can make a difference. And so just acknowledge that even children want to feel like what they do is important. And then it says, when I make a good choice, it's not an accident. I do it on purpose. And I kind of use this as a way to teach them what purpose means, because I think for kids, they just know in a negative way, he did that on purpose. So like he did it, you know, for a reason, it was a choice. And so just kind of teaching them that concept that purpose means that we've chosen, you know, that action. And so we talk about, first I think about what's important to me and what I want. This is, she sees her sister is frustrated. And so what she wants is for her sister to be happy. So
were you the illustrator as well?
The illustrator was a woman from France who she did a fabulous job. Yeah.
Oh.
And so then she says, I imagine lots of choices. And so this is really important for children to understand that they have choices. She could just walk away or just keep reading her book, or she could decide to help her sister. And so this is kind of the idea of how, you know, feeling that what you do matters because you've chosen it, you've thought through it. And it says, then I decide what seems best. When I do good and I'm kind, it feels right. And so just that kind of connectedness is when we're kind to other people, you know, it feels right is good for us too. So.
Oh, Cheri, thank you. That was delightful. And as someone who, like, purpose and intention are really important to me. And I love the way, I mean, I've never really thought about how do you teach, you know, how do you teach that, especially to young people? And it's so beautiful the way you've done that. And I think children's books are so amazing, right? It's like they're just such a great way for us to learn things, you know?
Yeah, right. I try to put principles in there that will apply to everybody, but find a way to teach them in a simple way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Marlene, I know you've told us a little bit about the resilience of and the thriving of some of the people in your book. And yeah, I'd love to hear some more about that.
Well, I think, yeah, so the common denominator of all the women were, like I said, like the title, Still I Rise, of course, we all readers, we know it comes from Maya Angelou, and the refrain is still like dust, I'll rise. And I think running through the threads of all the chapters is all the women shared that spirit, like we will rise. You know, we can overcome things, not we can overcome things as opposed to things will overcome us. So I think that, you know, and it's all respective. Sometimes, you know, we all think our own problems are monumental, but, you know, it's all relative. And a lot of the women in the book, they overcame racism and sexism and poverty, and much more so than, I mean, we are in a pandemic, but, you know, we have TV, we have internet, we have nice homes, we have access to books. I mean, you know, it's not like an Anne Frank, you know, survival. I mean, it's all relative. Yeah, we're not going out with our friends, but we're still, you know, we still have all our creature comforts. So I think though, but, you know, but the depression is there. So I think these women, they really bring succor to one's soul. And I think one thing that we all share with us is the writing, the therapy of writing. It's our SOS. I think that's, we're also grateful to Brenda, because if you write without an audience, it's sort of applauding with one hand. It doesn't make any impact. So I think by Brenda championing our books, it gives us our joy of writing, our purpose, our passion, but yet it finds an audience. So Brenda, forever indebted, forever indebted. I've told her that many times.
So Marlene, as you were working on this book, were there some things that you learned that maybe you hadn't really thought about as far as, you know, thriving or resilience or rising, things that really struck you?
Well, I think the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is the persistence. It's not giving up. And a lot of these women had tenacity. They were pit bulls, and they said, like, one of the chapters was on Michelle Knight. I don't know if you remember her, but she was imprisoned by Ariel Castro for 11 years in that house of horror. I mean, she was starved, she was beaten, he made her suffer 5 miscarriages, she didn't see her son, and then she lost custody. And her take when she finally was saved was, she said, life is tough, I'm tougher. So, I mean, some people, they get a paper cut and it's like, poor me. And then how many people can say that? And then she got 11 tattoos, one for each of her years of captivity, but each one was something like a chain, a broken chain, a flower, a butterfly. So she says, my body's going to be a temple to what I've overcome, not the horror. Like, the horror has to finally go in the rear view mirror. Because if we don't let it go in the rear view mirror, if we let our yesterdays destroy our todays and our tomorrows, then we're doomed. That's what I learned from these researching these women, phenomenal women.
Wow. Wow. And I'm curious, what was the impetus for you? Was there one certain spark that led to?
Oh, yes. And well, I remember. You know, sometimes, like, to borrow from Shakespeare, life brings us to sleep with strange bedfellows. And I'm sort of like, I'm middle class, I'm Jewish, I'm from Canada. I met somebody in San Diego who was the utter antithesis of myself. We just met utterly by happenstance. And she started telling me her litany of woes. And it was like drugs was the common denominator. My daughter's addicted to drugs, and my son's in jail for drugs, and my husband's selling drugs. And I'm going like, oi. But anyways, and she's telling me all these bad things. Like, she must have had trouble since she was a fetus. Like, she just had everything bad happen to her. And then just before I left, I said to her, you know, I love words, but I didn't have any of succor. So all I could say to her is, oh, I'm sorry, which I don't know really helped that much. And I remember she said, hell, I'm still here. And then I thought, as I was driving on the Interstate 8, it's a miracle I didn't cause a traffic accident because I'm a really bad driver. Because then all of a sudden I go, oh, eureka. That's it. Maybe if I could get a book and I compile these women who had just like unbelievable, every day was a walk through Hades. And if I could compile their stories in one, maybe people who are having problems or know people who are getting problems, which is practically everybody, you know, is they could read about these women and say, hey, they did it. They overcame, you know, like Maya Angelou, who Still I Rise. I overcame a childhood rape. I came sexism. I gave poverty. I lost my voice for 5 years. And in her words, still I rise. So that was my hope, that people would draw succor.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow. Wow. I feel like we have a very big room today. Like, there's so much here. It's just wonderful. And I would just like to open it up to, it could be any of the authors that want to jump in, or anybody who's here. Is there anything that you heard that you just want to jump in? Nita, I saw you just unmuted.
Yeah, I'm curious with Cheri, how you, I mean, I know you are an educator, but like, what is it that drew you to the topic of making a difference? How did that all come about for you? Was there a specific experience, or I'm just curious always curious how the story of how the book came about.
Yeah, I think it was part of a series. And so I was kind of looking at, you know, just all of the different character traits, you know, that like children to develop. And this one is, you know, having a sense of purpose is actually pretty complicated, you know, and yeah, it's something not everybody wanted to tackle, you know, when I presented it before. So, but for me, I'm kind of a reflective person, I think, and yeah, it's something that I think about. I think why not teach children that there's a, you know, a reason to live, that they're, you know, they can make a difference in life, you know, so.
And I agree with what you said so much, because I think the difference between happy and unhappy people is finding that purpose. Like, life has to be more than going through the motions. We wake up, we eat, we watch our favorite show, we go to sleep. And it doesn't matter what your passion is, if it's tennis, if it's traveling, if it's reading, but it's like, you know, it's life becomes shadow, no substance, unless we have that purpose. So to put that into a children's book is so empowering for the young people, because it's saying, you know, it's not all playtime, but you're putting it in a way that you're putting a concept, difficult concept into a children's world, which is quite masterful, really. But I think that's great. If I had a kid or a grandkid, I would definitely want to read that to them.
Well, thank you. You know, I was just going to say that during this time period, though, it is something that actually has kind of been on my own mind, you know, because, you know, as a lot of us are just home more, and we feel like we're just waking up and eating, and we're just, you know, what are we doing, you know, because we're not all able to do the same things that we used to. So for me, that's really come to the forefront. Well, what am I doing that is really meaningful and important? So I think it's something, yeah, we should all think about at some point.
Yeah, Marlena.
I was also going to follow up on the questions to Cheri. I think the topic is phenomenal, and we all want to make a difference, and we want a sense of purpose. And even for us adults, it's phenomenally complicated and difficult. And I'm wondering how you thought about motivation, even before you started to write the book, how to get the hook so that children would be leaning forward. I have to share with you that I'm doing writing classes with my 9-year-old, and this is the level of book that we're reading. And I can't help but think, oh my gosh, my little Elian, yes, I'd love for him to read your book. And how would he get motivated? What is it you're doing to motivate these kids to read this important stuff?
Great question.
That's a good question, because I think a lot of times these are books that are in the school system, or they're in the library and their parents pick them up for them. So I don't know, because I feel like my books are not like the typical children's book that, I mean, they have kind of a story, but they really are just there to teach a lesson. And so I don't know if they always have a hook like an ordinary book does. But but every book starts with basically like a problem or a situation, like here we are, and it shows always in the first person. If I do these things, you know, look at how great things will be if I do this, this, and this. And so I think that's the motivation. You know, just when I've read to kids and they're like, would you read it again? Like they, you know, they sense, I try to make them feel empowered by them, I think, and just always be positive. I try never to talk about, well, if you do this, the bad things will happen. I only emphasize the positive, and I feel like that is really motivating to them.
I feel, Cheri, your book has come so far. My basal reader was Dick and Jane. See Dick run, run, Dick run. And so, you know, and I still liked it, but how much more so is yours? Or even also, I grew up, you know, with my favorite was fairy tales. And, you know, unfortunately, the message was, you know, we're going to all live happily ever after we find the prince. So I think what a shift, or, and you know, we're impacted greatly by our childhood books, our Run, Dick, Run. I wish some of mine had, but anyways, that's a whole other story. But you know, the prince will save you. So I think, you know, it's evolved so much more to think, to have a purpose. So that's great.
Thank you. And one other thing that I do think is helpful is that I've written like a lot of games and activities at the back of the books. And so parents can, you know, not only reread the book and ask questions about how they interpreted things, but do activities. So I don't want it just on a cognitive level. Oh, I understand what that means. I want them to like experience it. So.
Wow. Marlena, did you want to say anything more about that?
I was just going to tell Cheri, this is an offshoot, but as a teacher, the kids love activities and games. And if you ever email me, I could share with you some of the fun, and it would work very well with elementary school, that they're educational, that you could put at the end of the book. It'd be educational but fun. So if you email me or phone me, I can share that with, or Zoom, I can share those techniques with you.
All right, thank you.
No, I was just going to say, Cheri, I think that it's incredibly important what you're doing. And what I heard you saying is it might be more of a hook for parents to pick up the book and read with their kids and slide it in, because it's such an important message. So yeah, good for you.
Thank you.
I just want to say something too. I'm actually Cheri's daughter, and I'm at work right now. That's why I've been like a little ghost on the side. But she actually started writing the books when I was like only 3 years old. And so I kind of still have that perspective of being like a child reader and reading these concepts. And I just want to say, like, as an adult, I still remember these like very simple concepts that just as a child reading those books, sometimes when I'm not feeling confident or not feeling like I'm making a difference, I'll go back to her books. And so I just wanted to say that I really do think that.
Andrea,
Andrea.
Andrea, I couldn't think of a nicer tribute anybody could give their mother than the one you just gave yours.
Oh, thank you. Obviously, I'm biased. I think she's a great writer. So.
Thank you.
Popping in by video too to tell us that. It was really beautiful to see you and to hear that. It's lovely.
Yeah, I'm still listening, but I'm just at work, so I'm just silently in the background.
I'm curious, was there anything else that sort of popped out from anything our authors were sharing, that a direction you want to go? We could stay on purpose and children, or we could go back to the resilience of women or writing.
I was thinking right now, the book Still I Rise is so pertinent, because she kind of said that, but I know that hearing other people's stories of overcoming, whether we're in the pandemic and have all the things we need and are not, suffering from any of the racism, sexism, poverty that's happening in a lot of places in the world, or if those are actually happening to us, the stories of facing things and getting through them are so powerful. So I really appreciated that, and that she talked about that too. So thanks.
Thank you. And I think as for all writers, I think we're just answering a basic human need, because even the cavemen on the walls, they wrote, or the Egyptians on the pyramid wrote their hieroglyphs. It's a way of saying, we were here, we mattered. And I think writing does the same too. It's sort of like a touch of posterity. I know writing saved my soul. I know it really, really did. I'm not saying that flippantly. Because, I've been teaching since, well, my students think I had, wasn't safe from attacks by the dinosaurs, but it hasn't been that long, but it has been a while. And, teaching became, it's after so many years. So writing became my passion rather than my teaching is my profession. So I'm lucky to have both.
Wow. Yeah. And I love what you guys are saying, because it's so true, right? Like, and again, this goes back to why we're all here, under the mango flag, which is that story, right? Like how story connects us and saves us, and how we see ourselves in story, or we project that maybe we could see ourselves in that particular story. Like when it comes to your book, Marlene, like we want to be like that, and it gives us hope. And
it teaches compassion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think Brenda's waving at us.
Brenda, come on.
Yes. Yeah. I had a question from Marlene Wagman Geller. You've written about dozens and dozens and dozens of women, but I wondered if there's one woman who just rocks your world that you want to tell us about.
Well, you know, a good mother loves all her children, but if I had to choose one, I think I would, what comes to mind is Hattie McDaniel, whose name is not a household name, but everybody remembers her because she was Mammy in Gone with the Wind. And she was, and when she, her story was really interesting because when she won, when she was chosen to be the Scarlett O'Hara's maid, she got bullied from both sides. The black said, you know, you're being like an Aunt Jemima, you're being, you're being a maid, a stereotypical maid, which is really hurtful to the Black community. And the white community was putting her down because, yeah, you're the stereotypical maid. But her response was, hey, I'd rather play a maid for $700 a week than be one for $7 a week. And that was just the tip of her very strong iceberg. When she was the first African American to garner an Academy Award. She got for Best Supporting Performance for her role. But when, you know, in a Peachtree in Atlanta, they had that huge fanfare for when the novel debuted, the movie debuted, she wasn't invited because of course she was Black. So, and even when she was invited to partake of the Academy Awards, she sat by herself at a table by the kitchen. So, but still nothing would, you know, destroy her indomitable spirit. So her story resonates with me.
Oh, that's an excellent choice. Yeah.
I know
Love
your
her.
favorite is Fannie Lou Hamer, but yeah,
Yes.
her as well. And you're the one who exposed me to Fannie Lou Hamer, she was remarkable.
Brenda, tell us why.
So Fannie Lou Hamer was a freedom writer as a teenager, and she got on the buses in the 50s and was going to like Mississippi in the Deep South and registering African Americans to vote. And she was with other young people, teenagers and college folks. And at a certain point, they were hungry after all that knocking on doors and registering people, and they went to a cafe. I think this is deep Mississippi.
Yes.
And they were told they couldn't stay, and they said, hey, we're allowed to eat here. And then they called the police on them, and the police came and like drugged the kids out, and Fannie was beaten severely, like thrown in jail so severely that like she had difficulty walking after that, and like actually had lifelong injuries that impacted her. But she didn't let it stop her. She was indomitable, to use a Marlene word, and she actually dedicated her life to civil rights. And that just like, I don't know, that just is so moving to me, that like you're presented with hardship, the odds are against you, and then you're just like, I'm going to keep doing what my mission is. I'm going to stick to my purpose. I'm going to keep going. And that is just very moving to me.
Right. She dedicated her life to arm wrestling Jim Crow in the South, even though he was a very formidable foe when she was doing so.
You know, I just love this so much, how this conversation, they're all different, right? Every week is so different, but it's like how, you know, we're talking about purpose, and then we have these women who are just like so on purpose no matter what. And what's coming in my mind, I was just dropping in, and Nita, I want to ask you about this. I want you to put on your other hat, which is your other book hat, you know, Depression Hates a Moving Target, because we have all of this. And then I've been hearing a lot of people talk about, as the time has gone on, that the depression is increasing. So on one hand, we're talking about people who are on purpose, on fire, motivated, alive, caring, helping, making a difference. And then I also know that there's a lot of people right now who, you know, are just starting to feel immobilized with depression. And Nita, I just thought maybe you could bring in some insight on that direction. Like, what about that piece of all of this?
Well, that's actually that's actually something I get asked about a lot, because I did very publicly, my first Mango book is Depression Eats a Moving Target, How Running with My Dog Brought Me Back from the Brink. Thank you, Brenda. And so I get emails, and more of them lately, with the question, I'm stuck. I used to run, I used to write, I used to whatever, and I'm stuck. And this is what I'm using for myself. And I tend to only share things that I have tried, because I'm not a counselor or anything like that. I just have my experience. And my motto right now is dream big, but set tiny goals. So with running, there was a period of time when Ed was really, really sick. Because of a lot of things, I had cut way back on running, and there was a period where I wasn't running at all. And I just said one day, you have got to just put on your shoes and do 6 laps around the living room and call it a win. And that was it. That was my tiny goal. And because if I can have an achievement of a tiny goal, that will build. And so Sunday I ran 7 miles. So that's, I'm a marathoner. So, that's what has to happen. You have to start somewhere. And sometimes when you're depressed, you have to let yourself go way back to be really, really green. So with writing, for me, it's always the 10-minute writing practice, set that timer. I mean, Brenda talked about having her hour when she writes. And sometimes that writing is just me saying, oh my gosh, I miss the coffee houses. I miss the community rooms where I used to have my, empty table and other people's families' noise that I didn't really care about, things like that. And sometimes it's, here are 10 ways to do this thing, and it's the blog post I need to, so, but having just that tiny little goal that's what's saving me right now. So
you're saying do bite size.
Yes, bite size. However, tiny goals is just my thing. I mean, what I actually say, what I actually say is choose a goal so small you can't fail. I mean, that's actually the way to, so it's, and then work from there.
Nita, that is so great. I love that. And I also love that it's not disconnected from what we're talking about purpose. And like you said, dream big, but make tiny goals. And because to me, it seems like too, that our sense of purpose can be fulfilled in those little spaces. At least that's my experience. I can meditate. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we can't actually do the thing we need to do tomorrow. We need to plan it, but we actually can only do the thing we're doing in this moment. And what happens to me is I get overwhelmed because I think about the whole thing. So we plan the whole thing, and then we just do this little bite size. I like what Marlene said about the bite size. So, and Marlene, I think, has her hand up too.
Yeah, hey, Marlena.
Yeah, Nita, I just wanted to take us back to one of the very, very first things you said today regarding the book that you wrote with Brenda. And that is, I wrote it down because I loved it so much. You said, well, it's not just for writers. All of us have been stunned by the blank page. I think that's powerful. And I think it speaks to how many people are experiencing life right now, is being stunned by the blank page. So I would say even the book that you're talking about today relates very much to what we're discussing. So I love that.
Good analogy.
I know. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting that, Marlena. That was beautiful. And it is, you're right. It's such a great metaphor. Thank you. So we have still about...
I think one of the offshoots of writing, we've all talked about how writing gives us a purpose. We're all talking about how writing, but another aspect of writing and incidental is coming across lovely people. Like, we're all from different places, we're all from different areas. And had it not been for the written word, we would never even have known each other. And I think one of the great things about writing and subsequently of publishing, it opens up so many wonderful new opportunities. We meet people we otherwise would not have met. So how fortunate we are. How fortunate we are in that regard.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Bridget. I just saw your message pop up. I'm glad to know your name too. I saw BJB. How wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, Marlene.
Yeah, Bridget's another Mango author, and Cheryl was here, but I don't see her. There have been a couple Mango authors lurking, which has been kind of fun to see the names I recognize.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah.
Mango is just such a great community. People have said that. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's just a wealth of information, compassion, lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I love too, I want to build on what Marlene just said about that connection piece. I'm a part of several different groups where people have been doing, that compassionate short writing, a prompt a day, and people are responding in Facebook groups, things like that. And just seeing like what a sense of community that fills, because there's something about writing, as we all know. I think, typically it's a place where we feel safe to say what's really true. It's not this polished veneer, especially in those sorts of daily prompts. And the closeness in the community that can come from that, just from seeing like, oh, all the things everyone's experiencing and everyone's truths. There's something which I think why I love these Wednesdays too, right? Like just to hear what people are experiencing is.
Right. And by understanding what other people are experiencing, like Orwell said, the majority of one is madness. If it's not just us, it's other people are echoing the same sentiment. So that helps too, because we're not on the lifeboat alone.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So lovely.
I think Rachael is still here. Yeah, she's another Mango author. Marlena,
Yeah.
We got a ton of Mango authors here.
Rachel, if you want to pop in, you always have something beautiful to say.
Well, I with what Nita and Brenda were saying, I've been using writing for my meditation. I set I have that Insight timer app, and I set it to 15 minutes with like a good meditation music, and just write for those 15 minutes. And that's my meditation. It's my letter to the universe. And if I know what I'm feeling, I speak it clearly in that, so that I process it and can release it from my body in the writing. And it helps to really see it and get it out of me. And it becomes part of this flow. And it's amazing some of the things that come out that I had no plan on writing. But
and even Rachel, your board behind you says it all. Believe, rejoice. I'm half blind, but I can see the believe and the rejoice.
Yes.
So be better. So that's maybe a visual metaphor of everything that we're saying right here.
Oh yeah, well, and that's my self-worth collage board. So yeah,
right. Lovely.
That's what I write in front of, because just to center myself, to know where I am.
That'd be a
Rachel,
great backdrop. Your board is beautiful.
Thank you.
Rachel, I just wanted to say that your silver glittery eyeshadow is giving me life. I really thank you. Thank you.
I was like done where I was working out, and I'm like, oh God, my eyes are.
It's perfect. It's beautiful. I love it.
You really
Honestly, it really like pepped me up.
Yay.
And what about Brenda's Hobbit backdrop?
I love The Hobbit.
Middle Earth. I want to go.
Middle Earth.
Yeah. Well, it's I guess the safest place to be right now, New Zealand, right? Because the female leadership, a fabulous female leader.
Well, we have just about a minute to go, and I think it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful hour with you guys. Thank you.
I wonder if we can try something different, Cheri. I wonder if we can because we don't have to we're not going to turn into pumpkins at the end of 1 minute. So I wondered if we could go around and all close the circle. Everyone in the Zoom can close the circle verbally and just sort of say an intention or a hope or just whatever comes to mind as a closing.
That's beautiful, Brenda. I love that. Would you like to start?
I sure will. I will end with an intention. I edited and acquired a book like 20 years ago called The Code, and it was about like this spiritual practice of setting an intention. And you can wish for whatever you want as long as it's for the good of everybody, for the good of all the world. So I intend for the good of all that that all of you Mango authors and every other Mango author stays healthy and is able to be productive, and that their books get into the hands of people that need them so that they can help them. That's my intention. And I will pass the baton to Marlene.
Well, I'll share something I tell my students, and I tell them dreams don't just have to be for sleeping. You know, if we hold on to them and we dream enough and hope enough and work enough, they can come true.
Then you pass the baton.
Oh, Nita.
Oh, I was thinking about the Buddhist practice of metta, and you start with yourself. You say, may I be well, may I be peaceful, may I be happy, may no harm come to me. And then you do a person you love, and then you do a neutral person, and then you do the difficult person, and then you return back to yourself. And so I hope that we can continue that circle, because I find that sometimes we talked about some things, I think it was before we actually started recording, about some social media being more positive, but there's also a divisiveness, and I'm sometimes finding it difficult to have metta for the difficult person. So I wish that we all could work on, I say this for myself, and that we can all work on that. So I'm working on it for myself so that we can all work on it. So thank you.
Pass the baton.
All right. Debbie is to my left. I'm not sure if she can you chime in even though you're recording?
I can, yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's here and participating. It was a very moving call, and I was inspired very much. And the thing that really popped in for me was about writing and tiny goals, and also listening, because I've been told I'm a good listener, and I feel that I listen well to other people, but sometimes I don't quite listen to my own intuition as much as I would like. So my intention is to start tiny goals for myself and to help others, and also to start listening to my own intuition more.
Oh, that's lovely and well praised.
Thank you. And I pass the baton to Rachael.
Thank you. My intention is to do my part to spread light and lift as I lift myself, help lift others, and just keep in that focus of coming from a loving place and being conscious of what I'm putting out in the world right now, especially with so much going on, is really keeping focused on everything I do coming from a loving place, and let that shine outward. So I will go to Cheri.
Okay. My thoughts were kind of like yours, Rachael, and I appreciate what everybody said. But a thought that I had is that we can't always change our situation, but we can always change our response. And so just remembering that we're always empowered, to be kind. We're always empowered to try to do the right thing. And so I guess that's my intention, kind of like you said, to just find ways to be kind and make a difference. Annie?
It's like that t-shirt, in a world where it can be anything, be kind.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Cheri. For me, my greatest and I think about this almost daily, but it's Stephen Covey said, be a light, not a judge, be a model, not a critic. And I try to keep that in front of my face at all times, that don't be the light, be the one that people look to, don't judge anybody. I can only do what I can do and be a good influence on the world. And so, no, I am grateful that you guys brought this up, because it reminded me again today to that mantra that I try to express to others.
Lovely mantra.
Yeah. And where did it start? Do we go back to you, Cheri?
We have Robin and Bridget.
Okay, I don't see them in front of me. So Bridget, I love the name Bridget, so we'll go there.
Hi. Such a wonderful conversation. Just great comments, great conversation. So I did love when Nita said that we have all been stunned by the blank page. Well, I know I have. And I love also when Marlena made that wonderful analogy that we are stunned by the blankness of some of our lives now and just the time and space that we have. And it reminded me of the quote by Lao Tzu, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be.
Oh, I love it.
This is a time for us to really be with ourselves and to take the space to see how we can continue to contribute to a rise in consciousness in the world, in our communities and in our own homes. And my intention with my writing, my intention with my being, and my just hope for the world. That's it.
Thank you, Bridget. Do you want to call on Robin?
And I pass to Robin.
I'm going to be maybe a little less profound, but I gave blood today, and my husband, I've given blood several times over my life. Kenny has never given blood, so we both did it today. There was a bus that came to our apartment complex, and so I'm thinking both of that our blood will find the people that need it, and also for I tend to get really lightheaded, and I started to black out a little bit while I was giving blood. And as I kind of like refocused, there were like 4 women, all, with their masks on, all, right there. What do you need? How can I help you? And these people who are still out there in risking, their health. And so, yeah, I guess my intention is that my blood finds its way where it needs to go, and also that everybody who is needing to still be out and putting themselves at a certain amount of risk are taking care of themselves and are staying well. So I guess that's me.
Wow.
Wonderful.
That was profound, Robin.
Yeah, there's good people out there still.
Are you going to pass the baton to me, please?
I think I am, yes.
I think did everybody else have a chance? I think so, yeah. I have been so blessed by this group and by similar groups. I just feel as if the importance of having such good-hearted, loving people, right, who are so well-intentioned is such a gift. It's one of the biggest gifts of my life. And my wish, my intention, and I know we're all doing this, right, is that we're out in the world, and that if there's anyone who doesn't have this, that somehow they find their way to us or to someone else who will be there, with an open heart, with some compassion, with some love, so that nobody feels alone right now in this, because it's such a blessing to have wonderful human beings to be with. So thank you all so much. And Brenda, thank you for that beautiful closing idea. I love you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. I really wanted to hear from everybody. I just did. It was selfish.
The selfish gift is such a gift. I really appreciate. Thank you all. We're here every Wednesday at the same time. Please come back. It's so wonderful to spend the hour with you.
And it was so nice connecting with you and everyone else as too.
It was great to meet everybody, and I've been coming
on
Wednesdays and finding just solace in this. I just come in, sometimes I turn my video off. They're just lovely, so thank you.
And good luck, everybody, with all our writing endeavors.
Thank
Okay,
you.
hopefully we'll see you next week.
Bye bye. Thanks, everybody. And good luck with your move, Debbie.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate
I hope it works out wonderful for you.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Brent.